Hello everyone, welcome back to our complete Python program course. We hope you have been practicing everything we have learned so far. In our previous lesson, we learned about decision making using if else, if, elif, else, and nested if statements. Those statements allowed our programs to make decisions. Today, we are going to learn about another extremely important concept in programming. We are going to learn loops. Yeah. And honestly, loops are one of those concepts that completely change the way you write programs. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine I ask you to print hello, okay, 5 times. Then you could simply write, yeah, I could simply write this 5 times. And if I run this, it prints it 5 times. That, that's exactly fine. But what if I ask you to print it 100 times? Would you really write print and this statement 100 more times? Which is obviously not na. So, and what if I ask you to print it 10,000 times? That's where loops become extremely useful. A loop allows us to tell Python, repeat this piece of code for me. So, instead of writing the same instruction again and again, we write it once and tell Python how many times or under what conditions it should repeat. Loops are used everywhere. They are used to process thousands of records, and they are used in games. They are used in websites. They are used when processing lists of students. They are also used in data analysis and in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And they are one of the most important tools you will need for problem solving. So make sure you actually practice today's lesson very carefully. So let's get started. Before we begin, let's quickly revise the previous lessons. In our lesson number 4, we learned about decision making. We learned then that an if statement allows Python to check a condition. For example, age is equal to 20. Let me show you. So this is the example. In this, Python checks the condition. If it's true, the code runs, and if it's false, Python skips it. We then learned if else. That gave us two possible paths. We also learned about if, elif, else, which allowed us to handle multiple possibilities. And we solved the problems like even or odd, positive or negative, voting eligibility, pass or fail, grade calculator. Now think about this. What if I want to perform the same action again and again? That's where today's topic comes in. Moving to the next slide. So these are some learning objectives of today's class. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to understand what loops are and why programmers use them. We will start with the for loop. Then we will learn the range function. We will understand how to count forward and backward. We will learn how to loop through strings and lists. Then we will move to the while loop. We will compare for and while. We will also learn two very important loop control statements, break and continue. Finally, we will look at nested loops and solve several programming problems. So, today's lesson is not just about memorizing syntax. The main goal is to understand how to think using repetition. Moving forward, why do we need loops? That's the main question now. Let's understand the problem before learning the solution. Suppose I ask you to print welcome to Python and you have to print this 5 times. You could write like this. Uh, wait, yeah. So if I ask you to print welcome to Python 5 times, you could write like this. This works. But look at the code. We are repeating exactly the same instruction 5 times. That's not a good programming practice. Now, imagine the requirement changes. Instead of 5 times, we need it 1,000 times. We have to write it 1,000 lines. That's ridiculous. A programmer's job is not to write more code. A programmer's job is to solve problems efficiently. So, instead, I want to say Python run this instruction 1,000 times. That's exactly what a loop allows us to. Moving forward, the idea of repetition. Let's look at repetition in real life. Imagine you are exercising at the gym. Suppose your trainer tells you to 10 repetitions of this exercise. You don't perform a completely different exercise every time. You perform the same movement repeatedly. One repetition, two repetitions, three repetitions, and you continue until you reach 10. The programming loop works in a very similar way. We have some piece of code that needs to be repeated. The loop controls that repetition. Another example is counting. Like imagine counting manually. One, two, three, four, five. Instead of manually writing every number, Python can generate that sequence for us. This becomes incredibly useful when dealing with large amounts of data. Imagine an online shopping website with 10,000 codes. If we want to display every code, we don't write 10,000 separate instructions. We use a loop. The loop goes through the products one by one and performs the required operations. Then let's move forward. Let's actually see the problem in Python. Imagine this program only. If I print welcome to Python 5 times, you get the program works. But now, let's think like programmers. Do we really need 5 separate print statements? Actually, no. We should be able to tell Python, take this instruction and repeat it 5 times. And that's exactly what we are going to learn next. We are going to replace these fig lines with a for loop. So now switch back to the presentation. In the next slide, we will finally write our first for loop. So introduction to for loop. Now we have seen the problem. We don't want to write the same code again and again. So let's learn the solution. Our first type of loop in Python is the for loop. or loop is generally used when we want to repeat something for a specific number of times or go through a collection of values one by one. Let's look at the basic syntax.
Given on your screen, or the item name in sequence and the statement.
Now,
Don't worry if this looks a little confusing.
we are going to break it down. The keyword for tells Python that we are starting a loop. Then we have a variable. Then we use the keyword in. After that comes the sequence or collection that we want to go through. And finally we have a column. The code underneath, which is intended as you can see, is the code that will be repeated. Remember, something very important here. Indentation is a part of Python syntax.
Python uses indentation to understand which statements belong inside the loop.
Now moving forward,
So, our very first for loop code. Now open VS Code and type what I'm.
what do you guys think it would print? Before we run this, I want you to look at it very carefully. You have for I in range, then 5. Then we have print hello world. Because the print statement is intended, Python understands that it belongs to the loop. Now, what do you think will happen? How many times will hello world be printed? 5 times. Now let's run it. Yeah, definitely. We have replaced 5 separate print statements with just 2 lines. That's already much cleaner. Now, understanding I, what you might be wondering, what exactly is this I? The variable I represents the current value during each repetition. We can actually print it, change the program as I am showing to you. Type this simultaneously with me for better understanding. Now, let's
Predict the output. What do you think will be printed?
That friend is cool. Yeah. Oh, understand.
Hmm. So let's check the output. Interesting. We got 0 through 4 instead of 1 through 5. Why?
Because Python's range function starts from 0 by default. This is something you will need to remember. Moving forward, understanding range. Now, let's properly understand range. Range is extremely important when working with loops. It generates a sequence of numbers that we can use for repetition. There are three common forms that we will learn. First, range stop, then range start and stop, then range start, stop and step. Now, let's understand each one carefully. First is the range stop. Let's do an example. Here, we have used range 5. Stop value is 5. Python starts from 0 and goes up to 5. Does not include 5. So let's look at the uh, notice that 5 itself isn't included. This is very common beginner mistake. If you write range 5, you get 5 numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, let's move to the second one. Range start, stop. Now, let's say we don't want to start from 0. Suppose we want numbers from 2 to 6. So we can write print. Let me show you. Yeah. Why did I write 7 instead of 6? Because the stop value is excluded. So Python gives us 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, let's move on the third one. It starts at 0, stops before 10, and increases by 2 each time. So the output will be 0 to 4, 7. This becomes very useful when we want to work with even numbers, odd numbers, or specific intervals. Now, let's meet in the next lecture.